This story revolves around a woman who's constantly belittled and called useless by her husband and his family. She silently listens, plans her move, and at the moment when everyone expects her to act weak, she shocks everyone. She cancels every major plan her husband made for a prestige event, pulls back all the funds that she was managing smartly, and watches as his perfect image starts to crumble. His panic is public, raw, and unforgettable, and for the first time, she takes control, not by shouting but by striking where it hurts most: his pride. He called me useless so many times. The words started echoing even when he wasn't around. "What do you even do all day? You're just a burden." At first, I tried to explain. Then I tried to prove myself. But eventually I stopped doing both. Because while he was busy talking, I was busy preparing. You see, he built his entire image on control. He controlled the narrative at home, in front of his friends, at family gatherings. He loved painting me as the clueless, soft wife who couldn't survive without him. And people believed him. They laughed. Sometimes, even in front of me. But what no one noticed was that the useless wife quietly managed every bank transfer, every reservation, every event confirmation. He thought giving me those tasks was beneath him. I thought giving me that access was his biggest mistake. Months went by. The words got sharper. The tone got colder. Every night, he'd come home, toss his jacket, criticize the dinner, mock my efforts, and remind me how lucky I was to be married to someone like him. And I would just smile politely, nod, and clear the table. He thought my silence was weakness. He had no idea it was strategy. The moment came 3 days before his grand event. He had been planning it for months. It was a lavish business meets society gathering where he'd stand as the flawless host. Everyone important was invited. It was his stage to shine, and he made sure I knew that my only job was to look pretty and stay quiet. He said it like a joke, but he meant every word. That night, after everyone went to sleep, I opened my laptop. I had access to everything: bookings, vendor payments, catering, the entire financial trail. Every penny had gone through accounts that he barely even checked. He was too proud to care. I started moving pieces. Quietly, carefully. Like a chess game I had already won. Day 1, I canceled the luxury cars for guest pickups. They were all prepaid in my name. Refund initiated. Silent. Day 2, I pulled back the payment from the decorator and messaged them that the client had postponed the event indefinitely. They panicked. He didn't even notice. Day 3, I made one final transfer. Not to him, to myself. Legally. Because guess what? Everything was under my management and legally traceable. For years, he'd made me sign, approve, and handle the boring details. He never imagined I'd use it. The morning of the event, he woke up feeling invincible. Tailored suit, hair perfect, his speech rehearsed like a performance. He didn't even look at me. "Make sure the guests are seated on time," he said. I just replied, "Of course." An hour later, his phone started buzzing. First a decorator, then the caterer, then his assistant. Confusion, panic, chaos. His confident walk turned into restless pacing. "What do you mean canceled?" he shouted on the phone. "What do you mean no cars are arriving?" I stood by the doorway, watching him spiral. His face flushed, his voice cracked, and that polished exterior began to peel. One call after another, his perfect world started crumbling in front of him. He ran to his laptop, checked emails, scrolled through transactions. His eyes widened. Every cancellation had my approval on it. Every signature. Every confirmation. He turned to me. For the first time, no insults. Just shock. "What did you do?" he whispered, as if the louder he spoke, the more real it would become. I walked toward him slowly. Calm. Composed. No yelling. No drama. Just truth. "I did what a useless wife couldn't possibly do," I said softly. "I took back everything I built for you. The money, the event, the control." He tried to intimidate me, raising his voice, but it didn't work anymore. His panic was louder than his words. The image he'd spent years constructing was collapsing in real time. One of his business partners called, demanding explanations. Another texted, furious about wasted investments. And there he was, standing in the middle of the living room, surrounded by the wreckage of his own arrogance. I didn't gloat. I didn't scream. I just let him face the storm he never thought I could create. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a finger that morning. All the work had been done weeks ago. All I had to do was nothing. People say revenge is loud, but real power is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It simply waits for the right moment to reveal what's been hiding in plain sight. He once called me a burden, but in that moment, he realized I was the backbone of everything he stood on. And when the backbone pulls away, the entire structure collapses. The house that once echoed with his confident footsteps was now filled with silence. Heavy, uncomfortable. He paced from room to room, phone glued to his ear, trying to salvage what was left. Every call ended the same way, with his voice trembling just a little more than before. The mask he'd worn for years was slipping, and for the first time, he didn't know how to fix it. I sat on the couch, calm, sipping tea like an audience member watching a performance unravel. He had always believed he was the only one in control, the puppeteer pulling the strings. But now, he was the puppet, tangled in his own wires. His assistant arrived, breathless and confused. "Sir, the guests are waiting." "Nothing's set up. The vendors are gone. What should we tell them?" His jaw clenched. Tell them there's been a miscommunication." But even he didn't believe his own words. The assistant glanced at me, unsure, almost sensing that something deeper was at play. I met her gaze with quiet confidence. She turned back to him, waiting for real instructions, but he had nothing. For years, he had barked orders like a commander. Today, every sentence sounded like a plea. Then came the call from his father. Loud. Disappointed. "You embarrassed the entire family. Do you have any idea what people are saying?" His face drained of color. He tried to lie, to cover, but the cracks were too visible. Panic doesn't hide well. He hung up, grabbed his keys, and stormed out, desperate to reach the venue and fix everything. I followed, not because I wanted to save him, but because I wanted to see what happens when a man who built his kingdom on arrogance faces reality. The venue was chaos. Guests were arriving, dressed in their finest, stepping out of their cars expecting glamour. Instead, they were met with an empty hall, no lights, no food, no music. The decorations were half removed. The staff had walked away hours ago. I watched from a distance as he tried to smile, to pretend everything was fine. He greeted people with forced laughter, sweat collecting at his temples. "There's been a minor delay," he kept repeating. But his eyes betrayed him. Everyone could see the panic. Whispers started spreading like wildfire. Is this really his event? What happened? He always boasted about perfection. He spotted me across the hall. For a moment, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Vulnerability. He walked toward me, slowly, as if approaching someone who suddenly held all the power. "What do you want?" he asked, voice low, trying to keep his image intact in front of the guests. I leaned closer. "I don't want anything. I just stopped giving." He froze. It hit him like a quiet explosion. For years, I had given time, effort, energy, loyalty. I managed everything behind the curtain while he stood in the spotlight. The day I stopped, the spotlight turned off. One of his business partners approached, furious. "Do you know how much money we've put into this? This is humiliating." Another came right after, threatening to pull out of future deals. The shark smelled blood, and he was bleeding confidence. He tried to pull me aside, desperate. "Please," he whispered, "help me fix this. You know how to handle these things. Just one last time." I almost laughed. The man who once called me useless was now asking for my help to save the empire he thought I didn't contribute to. "No," I said simply. "I don't work for free anymore." The look on his face was priceless, a mix of disbelief and fear. It wasn't just the event falling apart. It was the realization that his power had always been borrowed, and the lender had finally taken it back. Hours passed. One by one, the guests left. Some offered polite smiles. Most didn't. By evening, the hall was empty, except for him, standing in the middle, staring at the blank stage. His suit was still perfect, but everything else was broken. When we got home, the silence followed us. He didn't shout. He didn't throw anything. He just sat down, like a man who had finally met the weight of his own choices. I walked past him, dropped a folder on the table. Inside were all the financial documents he'd ignored for years. Every transaction, every plan, every decision that had built his image. All under my name. All legally sound. "You thought you built this," I said, standing over him. "But I was the foundation. And you made the mistake of calling your foundation useless." He looked up, eyes wide, realizing there was no way to undo it. No apology, no manipulation, no last-minute charm could rebuild what had been silently supporting him all along. I turned away, not with anger, but with clarity. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was liberation. I had carried the weight of his arrogance for too long. That night, I put it down. As I walked toward the door, he called out, voice cracking, "Are you leaving?" I paused. "No," I said, turning slightly. "You are." The house didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt alive. For years, it had been his stage. Now it was my space. People think power is in loud words, in dominance, in control. But real power is quiet. It's in knowing your worth, in standing still while everything built on lies collapses on its own. He once thought panic was something only others felt. That day, he learned panic has a face. And it was his.